Ok, vamos começar agora. Let's begin. Bem-vindo a todos. Welcome everybody to this panel on artificial intelligence. I think the official name is up there somewhere. Yeah, current challenges of AI in a faith context, right. Okay, I just think of artificial intelligence. We're glad that you're here. Thank you very much. And I'm going to begin by introducing myself. My name is Stephen Richardson. I am a professor of computer science at Brigham Young University. My focus in 50 years is on translation, automatic translation, or what's known as machine translation of languages, which uses AI. I'll say more about that in just a moment, but I would like to introduce our panelists here today. Starting on my left, we have the Right Reverend Yoshinobu Miyake. And yes, and he is the chair of the International Shinto Studies Association.
I hope you should make the new automatic translation machine in the near future. Don't use English for me.
And then next to me here we have the Rabbi Dr. Fishel Szlajen. Szlajen. I should have asked you that. Szlajen, who is the ordinary member of the Pontifical Academy for Life at the Vatican. And to my right, we have Thobias Prado Moura, PhD candidate in law and director of communications and events at the Brazil chapter of the Internet Society Brazil chapter. And to his right, we have Manisha Jain, who is a distinguished engineer and architect at Microsoft. So she knows all about AI. And then to her right, we have MedlarMema, who is head of program at the Global Governance Institute. Virtually, we also have Harpreet Singh, who is a member of the SikhiCouncil in Australia and India, and he will be attending virtually. So with that, I'm going to speak for just 1 minute myself, and then we're going to have statements from all of our panelists here. And what I would like to say, I just mentioned the fact that that my expertise, I just passed by it here. Well, I'm not even going to look at my notes, but my expertise is in translation of languages. And when we've been talking today about how AI can help people rather than hurt them, the technology that is used in AI today is the same technology that has been used in systems like Google Translate and Microsoft Translator for 8 years or more. And so I've been involved in this for that time and before. And I will just observe that one of the things that we need to do with AI is to make sure that it services not only the most common languages in the world, but all the languages of the world. And right now, all of these systems, these AI systems like ChatGPT, only service about 40 or 50 languages at most. There are 7,000 languages in the world, half of which are only spoken. And one of the large areas of focus in my work and in the work of many others is to make that kind of technology available to all peoples of the world, especially the underserved peoples of the world. The last thing I'll say, because I'm speaking this very quickly, is that I personally don't believe that AI is going to have consciousness anytime soon. It's all based on data. It does a lot of smart things. It looks like it's smart, but please, we need to keep humans involved in that. And I'm sure my panelists here will address some of these scenarios. So with that, I would like to invite, we'll start with Medlar over here on the right. He will give, everybody here will give a 5-minute or less summary of their statement, and then we will go to questions. We have some questions that we've come up with. We also invite questions from you. Please be thinking about them, and we look forward to having your questions. These are very distinguished and knowledgeable panelists. Thank you, Medlar.
Okay, thank you very much. Can everybody hear me? Great. Well, I first want to say that I take issue with the title. It's not challenges, but opportunities for faith. And I think that perhaps conditions us better to think about artificial intelligence. In his 1987 seminal work on science and religion, Holmes Rolston observed that the religion that is married to science today will be a widow tomorrow. But the religion that is divorced from science today will leave no offspring tomorrow. Scientific questions and discoveries almost always manifest themselves in the form of technological breakthroughs, some of which, like the steam engine, electricity, fission power, and the internet, become general purpose technologies. That is, technologies that generate other technologies, and which have a cross-sectoral and ubiquitous presence and effect on the economy, politics, religion, and society at large. Similarly, the development of artificial intelligence, which defined by John McCarthy as a science and engineering of making intelligent machines, is indebted to scientific advances made in the field of computer science, mathematics, and cognitive psychology, each contributing respectively the programming languages and algorithms that we talked about and that form the backbone of AI, the tools to model uncertainty and make predictions, and insights into human cognition and behavior that have informed the design of AI systems. I'd like to suggest that the impact of AI in religious practices and belief is one of the most urgent questions, and regrettably one that has until now not been properly addressed in this conference, with which religious communities need to wrestle. AI raises profound questions about what it means to be human, the nature of intelligence, as well as the ethical and practical implications of creating intelligent machines. Talk of dataism, I know one of my colleagues will talk about datafication, which dataism in a way is a branch of that, replacing religious worship or fears of being overtaken by droids equipped with superintelligent AI, as our chair so aptly pointed out, may at this sound fantastical, but the implications for people of faith and religious institutions are far from clear. These questions likely intersect of faith traditions' core doctrines, beliefs, and practices, and may raise related questions, including whether AI systems can possess a soul or consciousness, or more practically, how faith-based organizations and communities can use AI technologies in their religious practices, rituals, or outreach efforts. For technological optimists, significant AI contributions to religious practice and belief may enrich spiritual life through enhanced religious experiences and improved accessibility of religious teachings and practices. Leveraging AI can potentially enhance understanding of the spiritual and temporal needs of believers and give people access to a new source of meaning and spirituality, with the promotion of ethical discussions leading to a deeper understanding of both faith and technology. But not all scientific and technological advancements will be beneficial. Concerns about authenticity and accuracy, along with an increased risk of the misinterpretation of scriptures or the promotion of certain theological perspectives over others, should not be dismissed. Using AI to prepare sermons, as I'm sure many of you have done, or prepare any kind of religious material or instructions, may result in homogeneous and impersonal messages. Along with the loss of authenticity, there are worries about AI's lack of emotional intelligence and capacity for empathy, which may aggravate feelings of loneliness and exacerbate the ongoing mental health pandemic. Ethical and moral considerations that the development of full artificial intelligence could spell the end of human race raise serious questions about the creation and widespread use of AI in the first place. While the potential for new forms of spirituality may be liberating for some, the possibility of creating immortal AI beings may challenge long-standing religious traditions and indeed our very own place in God's creation. Finally, algorithmic biases can emerge when dealing with religious data and contexts, which can perpetuate existing cultural, theological, or social disparities, thus amplifying discrimination or intolerance. Moral dilemmas arise when AI is applied to areas like surveillance, warfare, and healthcare. And how do faith traditions inform these conversations? How do religious traditions view the sanctity of life in a world where AI may play a role in aging and end-of-life decisions? Both the upsides and the drawbacks of the impact of AI on religious beliefs, traditions, and practices highlight the need for careful consideration and ethical guidelines in the development and application of AI. They also underscore the absolute necessity of rigorously and systematically engaging with these issues to shape debates surrounding the framing of global and local governance frameworks. To conclude, going back to Rolston, I think that his assertion serves as a warning against those who fail to engage meaningfully with important scientific and technologically transformative developments. A religion that fails to acknowledge the benefits, growth, and risks that can come through developing a relationship with scientific endeavors may end up becoming a relic of the past. Thank you for your attention, and I look forward to the rest of the contributions and your questions.
Thank you, Medlar. Thank you very much. Now we'll hear from Manisha Jain, who is, again, a distinguished engineer and architect at Microsoft.
I think I'm a younger prodigy of Steve. He's an original Microsoft person. I joined Microsoft 2 years ago. And then before that, I worked at Google, where I worked on Google Translate as well. So we have a fun thing. I didn't know about that before. So I'm going to share some of the challenges. Some of the guardrails that are in place, and then through a personal story, a recent personal story of mine. So large language models, or LLMs, can be seen as a language calculator. We're not afraid of calculator. This is one of those things as well. But unlike calculators, their output is non-deterministic and sometimes unpredictable. It's a generative model, so like a 2-year-old, it hallucinates from time to time. The same input can yield different results from a machine learning model. Moreover, it's often impossible to trace how the model arrived at a certain answer. Unpredictability and lack of explainability are inherent challenges in machine learning models. These two are pretty big things, and they are just there. These difficulties are even more evident in religious context, where interpretations can be subjective. What certain faith, like you can say, this is my belief, and it is. So let me provide an example from recent months, where my daughter was getting married, and we required the services of Panditji, akin to pastor or minister in Hinduism. So faith is a powerful grounding tool for me, but like my grandfather, I don't visit temples, but find peace and joy in helping others and bringing joy to others. Community is really my religion, except it doesn't have any rituals. So when it comes to rituals, I follow Jainism, which is my last name as well. And like an engineer, I first made an effort to understand the principles, follow what resonates with me, and then discard the rest. For example, a traditional Hindu wedding includes something called Kanyadan, where Kanya is your daughter, and you donate the daughter to the new family. I'm not donating my daughter. I'm not comfortable doing that. So many elements of the ceremony reflect the patriarchal past in that sense. So we collaborated with the Panditji to update the ceremony, but dealing like humans, they have things, they have egos, and that is challenging as well. So what they would agree or disagree with felt as unpredictable as a generative AI model. And since the mantras were in Sanskrit, I couldn't use any of the existing translation models, but I so desperately wished for AI Panditji, unlike Medlar. So I would have liked to be able to use a model like ChatGPT, Phi, Gemini, to update the mantras in Sanskrit and then use TTS with like zero-shot voice cloning and emoted voice to recite them. I could have said this in plain English as well, but wanted your attention. So going through what language models were 5 years ago, speech is at that point where speech is really making phenomenal progress with as little as a 15-second of your voice, and it's able to replicate it, clone it, so it could sound like me. And it can also have emotions in its voice. so it can do very fun things nowadays. Humor aside, so that's what I wished for. Humor aside, I think my point is that AI ML poses numerous challenges, especially placing a very heavy burden on users to verify the output. Make sure that because you're the one delivering that final output, that it is right. It is powerful, and like any other power tool, it's important to have proper technical literacy of this thing. Otherwise, it could actually hurt you more than help. And so being able to detect the deep fake is an important thing before you use it, like a calculator. However, once we put all these guardrails in, and regulations are of course important. It's important things like you couldn't clone someone's voice without their consent is a very important regulation. However, once we put all these guardrails in place, having to work with the unpredictability of a model feels much more manageable than having to work with an unpredictable human being to me. So if we use it properly for the right problems, we could benefit more than get hurt by it.
Thank you, Manisha. You reminded me of a leader of a large translation company that said, "We believe in humans," when they're one of the biggest users of AI translation in the entire world. So there you go. Now to turn time over to Thobias Prado Moura. And Thobias is, once I said it again, a candidate, PhD candidate in law and director for communication events at the Internet Society of Brazil chapter. Thank you. Thobias.
Thank you very much. For the record, I will speak in Portuguese, but feel free to ask me in English, Spanish, or even Portuguese too. Yeah, of course. Bom, gente, boa tarde. Novamente me chamo Thobias. E nos últimos anos a gente tem visto um debate cada vez maior em torno da inteligência artificial e a sua inserção nas diversas áreas da nossa vida econômica, social e cultural. É como que a gente ouça que a inteligência artificial seja a evolução da política moderna e que ela acabará com todas as mazelas da sociedade, incluindo desigualdade social, a pobreza, o aquecimento global e até doenças. Também é comum que a gente ouça que essas novas tecnologias elas liberarão mais tempo para que a humanidade possa ter mais tempo para si, ter mais condição financeira, espaços de lazer, espaços de contemplação, e que ajude também a recuperar a humanidade que a gente perdeu com a mecanização do capitalismo. Além de ser um sonho muito, muito distante, também entendo que essas são verdadeiras alucinações que passamos a ouvir de forma cada vez mais recorrente. A gente vive tempos agitados, onde o binômio de liberdade e segurança, ele mais uma vez mostra-se inflexível, porque o mundo digital que nós vivemos, ele é ubíquo, e ele constitui um viver em risco permanente, ao frequentemente criar riscos não só às individualidades, mas às comunidades e também abalar as instituições estatais e também privadas e ser capaz de gerar catástrofes globais. Então, as suas causas e consequências, elas não se limitam mais a uma localidade e as crescentes tentativas de aumento de segurança a nível estatal e de controle, elas não são suficientes no nosso estágio atual de desenvolvimento tecnológico, econômico e social. Então, hoje a gente tem modelos de negócios aplicados pelas grandes empresas de tecnologia que eles são baseados numa coleta massiva de dados, especialmente sobre os nossos comportamentos online, desde buscas na internet até interações em redes sociais. Também a gente vê esses mesmos algoritmos sendo utilizados para analisar padrões e prever comportamentos futuros, e essas previsões elas são usadas para influenciar as nossas decisões, seja direcionando a certos produtos, conteúdos ou até ideais e ideias políticas. Também, de maneira análoga, a gente vê os governos adotando esses sistemas em áreas como saúde, educação, segurança pública, assistência social, prometendo uma otimização e uma eficiência. Então, essa aplicação, a gente vê que possui alguns tipos de problema, eles persistem, e aí a gente tem desde a exclusão digital, a violação dos direitos à privacidade, a integridade da informação, violações de direitos humanos e liberdades fundamentais. Então, como que a gente pode aproveitar o benefício dessas tecnologias sem comprometer os nossos valores de liberdade, além dos nossos valores democráticos? Em 2024, agora em abril, Brasil ele sediou um evento que chama Net Mundial Mais 10, que aconteceu 10 anos depois do primeiro Net Mundial, que foi uma resposta ao caso Snowden. E esse evento ele teve o intuito de promover mecanismos de reforço, abordagem de governança das tecnologias digitais e também o seu próprio desenvolvimento. Nesse momento, a gente consensuou que era necessário que a gente criasse padrões a nível internacional que garantissem o controle e a governança dessas tecnologias digitais e também dos seus sistemas algorítmicos. Para isso, é fundamental que a gente democratize os algoritmos, garantindo que a tecnologia ela sirva também para o interesse da própria sociedade e não apenas para um grupo tecnocrático ou para interesses privados. Então, a gente precisa debater principalmente como as estruturas de governança atuais elas podem ser fortalecidas e melhoradas para que a gente alcance um futuro digital que seja aberto, livre e seguro para todos. Para isso, a gente não pode deixar nenhuma parte interessada para trás. Então, quer dizer que a gente não deve promover apenas o engajamento intergovernamental e transnacional, mas também a gente tem que fazer com que todos esses atores eles também estejam integrados dentro dessa estrutura de governança. Então, a gente já tem um exemplo há mais de 30 anos da governança da internet e dos processos de políticas digitais globais que vêm sendo criados e que a gente pode muito bem se beneficiar disso. Então, a inteligência artificial ela oferece sim grandes oportunidades para acelerar o desenvolvimento humano, social e econômico e combater as desigualdades sociais, mas a gente também precisa reforçar esse ecossistema de governança para que ele respeite não somente o direito internacional e a legislação relacionada aos direitos humanos, mas que ele também contribua para que a gente garanta que a sociedade seja mais justa e que essas tecnologias não se tornem fatores de insegurança e reforço das assimetrias de poder que já existem hoje entre os países e as partes interessadas. Então, eu concluo reforçando que a inteligência artificial ela demanda coordenação e cooperação sem precedentes e a gente precisa que haja essa colaboração para que a gente molde um futuro em que a tecnologia amplie as nossas capacidades sem comprometer os nossos valores democráticos e a nossa autonomia individual. Muito obrigado.
Muito obrigado, Thobias. Now we will hear from Rabbi Dr. Fishel Szlajen, who's an ordinary member of the Pontifical Academy for Life in the Vatican.
Thank you very much. The use of artificial intelligence presents significant ethical challenges that need to be addressed. One major concern is the opacity of algorithms, which erodes public trust and raises questions about accountability. For instance, there are uncertainties about how AI algorithms will make decisions in emergencies involving self-driving vehicles. Additionally, the deployment of artificial intelligence in governance can lead to automation of decisions affecting large populations and manipulation of public opinion, as seen in the Cambridge Analytica case during the 2016 US election. Some countries are advocating for the replacement of the voting system with predictive algorithms that analyze citizens' political preference through data mining and biosurveillance. This use of artificial intelligence undermines citizens' autonomy, freedom, and the legitimacy of democratic institutions. Another ethical problem in artificial intelligence is algorithmic bias. Predictive algorithms trained on biased data can perpetuate and amplify existing biases, resulting in discriminatory decisions in various fields like hearing, credit, justice, and policing. Biased algorithms can also be used in healthcare to determine loan approvals, insurance coverage, or pretrial detention. Biases in facial recognition system have led to wrongful arrest and services being denied based on inaccurate identification, particularly affecting certain ethnicity, as seen on Compass software. These ethical challenges arise from artificial intelligence supplanting human judgment in decision-making processes. This undermines the principles of human autonomy, free will, and moral judgment. The concept of human dignity rooted in religious principle and the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, underscores the significance of human conscience, rational understanding, and moral decision-making capacity. To safeguard these inherent human values, regulations are needed to ensure that artificial intelligence is used as a supporting tool rather than replacing human judgment. In response to these challenges, my project, based on Genesis 1:27, proposes a regulatory criterion of non-delegation doctrine that prioritizes human judgment and upholds ethical standards of transparency, accountability, and limits on artificial intelligence use. This approach aims to integrate artificial intelligence into decision-making processes while preserving the condition for human judgment, which includes complex aspects like intuition, experience, context, and empathy that are not easily translated into algorithms syntaxes. By implementing guidelines that require disclosure of algorithmic workings and decision-making process, companies and government entities can benefit from artificial intelligence advancement without compromising human dignity. In conclusion, regulating the scope of artificial intelligence application is crucial to avoid the replacement of human judgment. Maintaining human judgment at the center of ethical decisions and establishing transparency and accountability in artificial intelligence systems are essential for addressing the ethical challenges posed by artificial intelligence. With these measures in place, technological advancement in artificial intelligence can be harnessed while respecting and preserving human dignity. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And now we will hear from Yoshinobu-san, Yoshinobu Miyake, who is the chair of International Shinto Studies Association. Thank you.
For many years, I have believed that the religious people should take the issue of artificial intelligence seriously. At G20 Interface Forum held in Kyoto in 2019, I, as the forum's managing director, raised the importance of these issues by setting up the concurrent session on AI threat and human responsibility as one of the 8 issues facing human society. I also attended the AI Ethics for Peace International Conference in Hiroshima last month, co-hosted by the Pontifical Academy for Life, the Abu Dhabi Forum for Peace, and Israeli Chief Rabbinate Committee for the Interreligious Relations and Religion for Peace, Japan. I joined the signatory of the Roma Code for AI Ethics, which I call the design and application of the algo ethics in the field of AI, including the representative from major high-tech companies such as Microsoft, IBM, and Cisco. At the Hiroshima conference, leaders not only from the Abrahamic religions, but also from the Oriental religions such as Buddhism, Confucianism, Hinduism, and Shintoism, along with those who are responsible for the development and operation of the artificial intelligence, gathered in Hiroshima, a witness of the enormous damage included humanity by the development of science and technology, that is atomic bomb. It is significant that the leaders of the conference gathered in Hiroshima to discuss how to incorporate ethical perspective into the development process of AI, which could lead to new technology. Since Isaac Asimov proposed his 3 laws of robotics 85 years ago, there has been the sense of the anxiety that humanity may one day be destroyed by intelligent robots. The problem facing the human society today is not is not visible threat like Terminators, but rather than the fact that the AI algorithms have already been incorporated into the various aspects to any social systems that aims to make us comfortable, and it is no longer possible to get rid of them. Moreover, in the sense that the generative AI with a deep learning function using neural network can access any kind of information. This is the same situation as that of Adam who touched the tree of life. or an ape who touches a monolith that suddenly appeared in the front of East African apes. Generative AI truly is the genesis of the artificial intelligence. Therefore, to prevent AI from repeating Adam's original sin, development engineering should always ensure the transparency and traceability, and the religious leaders should always make effort to understand that at least understand the latest technology and respond to the problems they may cause. When considering future AI issues, I believe that following two perspectives should be added. That is, physicality and animistic element. For the God of Abraham to truly understand humanity, he had have two fragile and vulnerable body, Jesus of Nazareth. God who has no hunger, no pain, no death, cannot understand the true suffering of human beings. Only through the incarnation can God emphasize with human beings. State-of-the-art robots equipped with artificial intelligence are not programmed by the human to deal with what they are expected to advance. The robots are made to compete thousands of similar robot programs in a virtual space, and then repeatedly scrapped and built for the thousands of generations, so to speak. To expect evolved programs from the virtual space and install them in a specific actual robot. This process can be compared with the generic evolution of the organism and system of the elaborate algorithm over millions of years. And some humans will develop the emotional attachment to the robot. For this purpose, physicality is an essential equipment. Physicality is an essential requirement, but the physicality in the inseparable from the death, which makes it more useful for the understanding human beings. Next is the issue of the animistic element. Unlike the Abrahamic religions, animistic religions such as like Shinto and Hinduism believe that the life or spirit exists not only living things, such as animal and plant, but also in inanimate things. And Mahayana Buddhism teaches that all mountains, rivers, plants, trees, whole land becomes one Buddha. When Japanese people buy a new car, they call a Shinto priest to perform a purification, and when they discard all the tools they have used to many years, they call the Buddhist priest to perform the memorial service for it. Japanese high-tech engineers undergo the serious purification by the Shinto priest into the prior to the launch of the space rocket manufactured with the best science and technologies. And industrial robots installed the large numbers on the production line, such as Toyota or Panasonic factories, are given the nickname as called out by their respective nicknames. They behave that they way do because they feel that the robot and the computer has spirit and life. If made, the system engineers and religious leaders around the world would add the two elements I have proposed to their traditional additional attitude toward AI. They would be able to understand human existence on the deepest level and manifest it a world more favorable, not only humanity, but all sentient beings as well. Obrigado.
Thank you, Yoshinobu-san. Now we will hear virtually from Harpreet Singh, who again is a member of the SikhiCouncil, and he will join us now and give a brief message to us.
Thank you. Can you hear me, Stephen?
Yes, we can hear you perfectly.
Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity. I represent the Sikh faith, and I'll provide a very brief view from the Sikh faith on the AI side of things. So to start with, we actually believe in the divine wisdom. That's the one that actually created all of us and all forms of life, and then it does exist in all forms of life in an equal form itself. But as humans, we do what we call in our faith is that we have this sensory intelligence. This is intelligence that we have got, that we gain from all the senses in the outer world. This intelligence is actually based on the physical things that exist around us and what we learn from them. And all the things that we have been talking about, the AI, are actually what we inherit from the sensory intelligence itself, whether it's the bias, whether it's the discrimination and how we perceive the people is actually the outcome of this sensory intelligence is what we learn from our faith. And from this sensory intelligence, it is very important that we have the experience and the consciousness to experience the divine wisdom. And that's where, again, I think some of the panelists have actually mentioned that how the AI actually lacks the consciousness. But even in the real world, when I'm actually experiencing the world only through the sensory intelligence, despite having the consciousness, I'm not able to experience it. Now comes the world of AI, which we believe is the manifestation of the sensory intelligence itself. So as we were the manifestation of the divine wisdom, now we have got the AI, which is the manifestation of the sensory intelligence that we have got. So inherently, it has got all those limitations that we had as humans, or the ones that we had developed over the time, or the ages or the centuries, all these biases, or all the other challenges that we had created within ourselves, now actually part of the AI. So this actually brings really, really interesting discussions and possibilities. Yes, it brings lots of challenges, but it also brings a lot of opportunities for us to correct the things that we have been creating the issues in the past, but it also brings a lot of challenges that because if we don't really understand the challenges that we had with our sensory intelligence, then all those challenges will be part and parcel of the AI too. So I'm here to present whatever spiritual experiences I have from the faith of Sikh religion and how it actually creates or gives us the opportunity to bring a lot of opportunities to improve the mistakes we have made in the past from the sensory intelligence. And if we don't learn from them, it can actually lead into more challenges in the AI world that I think a lot of these panelists have already provided a very in-depth understanding on. Thanks. Thanks, Stephen.
Thank you, Harpreet. Well, you can see from the messages from our panelists that they have lots to say. And you've heard the good, the bad, and the ugly of AI. Okay? We would now, we have some questions prepared that the panelists have submitted that they would like to address, but we also want to be sure and address your questions. And so I would like to invite you, either you can raise your hand right now and start to ask a question. I see one already from Christy and another one over there. And then as you begin thinking, I am going to intersperse the questions that the panelists have asked. I think they're really good, unless you ask the same questions, which you might very well do. So please feel free. Jim, go ahead and stand up and ask your question, and you can address it to a specific panelist or to all of them.
First of all, thank you very much, both moderator and panelists. This has been excellent. In fact, I would say that to date, this has been the most engaging and enlightening panel and a perfect discussion launcher for a great deal of very important thought. This is a dimension that perhaps was touched on both by Harpreet and by Yoshinobu-san particularly, but I'd be happy to hear anyone's response. And it is simply a nuance, really, to the conversation. Robert J. Sawyer is a Canadian science fiction writer and futurist of some significant note. Robert's most recent book is entitled Download, and it deals with yet another aspect of AI, which Rob has been dealing with now for the better part of 3 decades. In this particular one, he deals with a commentary during the book on Isaac Asimov's laws of robotics, which you may recall from the early 1950s.
Just mentioned by Yoshinobu-san.
Yeah. And in that, he articulates the 3, and he said, in terms of challenges that may emerge from AI, questions not only about soul, but simply intelligence and awareness, what, I paraphrase, the question of our attitude and intent as human beings employing AI, or our way in which we address AI, becomes of significant moral question. For example, Asimov's 3 questions could equally apply to a slave culture. A slave shall never allow a white owner to come to any harm. A slave will not allow himself as the property of a white owner to come to any harm unless it contradicts the first law. and so on and so on. You can see the kind of challenge. So I'd just like to introduce that as a question, first of all, of course, what thoughts have you this further Yoshinobu's presentation?
So exactly, what is the question?
Well, the question is, to what extent is that, to what extent are we justified in strictly objectifying AI, or are we really being called towards a very much more nuanced approach towards intelligence? And is, in fact, artificial intelligence a redundancy?
Any takers on this, panelists? Go ahead, Fishel.
Very good question. It's related to my dissertation about the doctrine, my project of the non-delegation doctrine, and preserve the space for human judgment. What I can consider also is that the moral algorithms, called moral algorithms, can simulate certain functional aspect of intentionality through their design and programming, but they lack consciousness and subjectivity. Their ability to make ethical decisions is based merely on predefined rules based on programmed ethical principles rather than on intentionality. This author, the same way of Raymond Kurzweil or Jürgen Schmidhuber and Yuval Harari also, they want to revive the notion of emergentism, no? As an explosive, sudden, and definitive radical change coming from complex phenomena and interactions from which unpredictable and irreducible results can arise. But in the context of artificial intelligence and ethics, this theory of emergentisms suggests that certain behaviors and characteristics, such as intentionality or consciousness, could emerge for complex systems in a non-linear way. That is, without a direct and proportional relationship between cause and effect, and whose result is not expressed at the sum of its descriptors. But this idea exists only in the mind of Yuval Harari, Schmidhuber, and Kurzweil. It's just an extrapolation of the mathematical and physical theory. It's just a theory.
Okay, thank you.
Stephen, could I
Yeah.
say something about it?
Please, Medlar, and then we'll go to this next question here.
Okay, I have a different view. Kay Darling, MIT, written a book called The New Breed. She proposed an alternative to just an all or nothing kind of like objectification or embracing AI as an emergent kind of consciousness. And she talks about how, even animals or other kind of objects have certain rights in society. Now, I haven't made up my mind about what kind of rights we ascribe to technology or even to robots or anything like that. But there was a story where one of these robots, it was a social experiment, which unfortunately doesn't say a whole lot about American society because they made it through Canada just fine. It was a hitchhiking robot. And the idea was, do you go from point A to point B just by hitchhiking, and what happens to it? He made it just fine through Canada. United States, the first stop was destroyed. So again, make of it what you will. But the question is this: what does it say about a society if it's allowed to mistreat creation a particular way, right? So the question is not, does a robot or a droid or whatever it is that has any sort of faux intelligence, right? Does it have any rights? That's a moot question. The real question is, what kind of society do we want to live in? Is it a society that in a way embraces respect, right, and embraces and values nonviolence, rather than one that actually is fine to do, to go ahead and do that? And so I think that's a more important question. The other part with regards to low robotics, I think that we have a big problem. It's called the alignment problem, which is related to this whole issue. I call the Thanos kind of dilemma. If you were to ask AI to protect human race and say, find a solution to global hunger, an optimal solution, well, how about we just snap our fingers and half the population is gone? I have solved global hunger. So you can still run into problems with Asimov's kind of rules and laws because of this alignment problem. Again, these are issues that we can get a bit deeper. And I just don't think that we need to take a black and white kind of approach to this. I think we need to be more nuanced when it comes to how we engage with the technology because of what it does in terms of what it reflects about us.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Please tell us who you are and.
Hi, I'm Agustin Nunez. I'm from the International Dialogue Center, CAICID, and I have a question that sort of further challenges it's a follow-up of the previous question, in the sense that if we do, I noticed, Professor Richardson, in your introduction, you said that we are sort of some time away from AI being conscious, but you didn't say that we weren't ever going to get there. So in the case of
I don't know that we will, but go ahead.
If we sort of entertain the possibility that AI does eventually become conscious, and we also acknowledge the fact that we currently have, as of today, the hard problem of consciousness, whereby there is no hard proof of what it means to be conscious. We cannot prove that. The only way that I understand that I am conscious is because I have an experience of what it's like to be me. And so that hard problem of consciousness, if in fact we do figure out how to create AI that isn't conscious, we will not actually know that we have created AI that is conscious. So I'm wondering how that dilemma is potentially solved, and whether that's been given any consideration, particularly from the religious perspective, given that then we would have, of course, duties and responsibilities towards this conscious being that we have created.
So the question is, how do we determine what consciousness is, so that we can determine if AI would ever achieve consciousness?
Given that we currently don't have a proof of.
We don't have a proof of, nor a definitive definition of consciousness. Would somebody like to address? I know that some of the panel members actually thought on that. Manisha, you're looking at me. Go ahead. And I see another question. Go ahead, Manisha.
Well, I think, do all humans have consciousness? Like, if that's the case, then like, why is there so much suffering? And then if I agree with the panel that these are just algorithms. Whatever data they were trained on, the output is related to that. So I wouldn't even remotely call it consciousness. It's very nice gimmick. Like the language is so fluent, but it could say whatever. Like at one point we were working on the Gmail Smart Reply, and whenever lost, the answer used to be, I'll do that for 7 cents. That's proper English, but where do you come up with that? So I wouldn't say it has consciousness or it will ever get one. It might fake one, but I don't think it will get one. But I think human and their best practices and their adherence to the principles of faith, that's something that's not a fixable problem to me.
Okay, thank you. I saw this brother over here. Yes, please tell us your name and who you are.
Zanoni Demetino Castro, arcebispo de Feira de Santana, representando a CNBB, Conferência Nacional dos Bispos do Brasil. Nós temos presente que é grande a realidade de desinformação, manipulação de notícias, disseminação de fake news, discurso de ódio. Seria necessário uma ética básica que tenha normas, valores, ideais, objetivos, que interligue todas as pessoas. Quem seria essas autoridades para superar, para barrar esta realidade de desinformação, fake news e mentiras?
Ok, muito obrigado. Acho que eu vou perguntar para o Thobias responder aqui, pedir que ele responda, né? This has to do with how are we going to control this situation where we have fake news and disinformation and other things? What kind of governance? One of the questions I had for you is what are some examples of rules and policies, governance and regulation we can put in place to avoid those kinds of problems? But you can respond.
Essa é uma pergunta complexa que ela vem sendo debatida e construída ao longo dos anos. Aqui no Brasil a gente tem a proposição do PL 2630, popularmente conhecido como PL das fake news, e dentro da construção, apesar de o projeto de lei ele foi tirado do debate agora e foi novamente criado um grupo de trabalho, mas dentro da proposição do projeto de lei existia uma estrutura de governança e nesse contexto eu entendo, e replicando mesmo o que foi pensado ao longo desses últimos anos, que essa governança ela teria sim que vir a partir não só das instituições governamentais, e aí lá naquele contexto a gente teve algumas propostas relacionadas a uma agência nacional de proteção de dados que já trabalha, já está sendo feita aqui, esse trabalho já vem sendo feito aqui no Brasil. A gente também tem uma proposta alinhada com a Ordem dos Advogados do Brasil, a OAB. E a nível internacional, a gente vê que essa governança ela vem sendo construída a partir de uma autoridade independente. Então, o que eu acho hoje é que a gente tem uma multiplicidade de soluções e a nível global, a gente tem que sair aqui com alguma recomendação, seja pelo G20, seja através das Nações Unidas, para que a gente possa coletivamente endereçar, seja através de um órgão global, ou seja através de uma política de combate à desinformação ou de integridade da informação, como o G20 atualmente tem falado, a nível global, justamente porque hoje isso vem sendo endereçado somente através de uma solução estatal. Então a gente precisa colaborativamente colocar outros atores, e aí a gente tem a sociedade civil, a gente tem o próprio setor privado, para pensar nessas propostas, para que a gente saia hoje do que é considerada uma autorregulação, que é basicamente feita só pelas empresas privadas, e a gente tenha realmente um mecanismo em que seja efetivo para que a gente combata a desinformação a nível global, porque hoje o Brasil ou qualquer outro país, enquanto ele pensa nessas soluções, elas nunca vão ser totalmente eficazes, porque a gente sabe que essa desinformação ela não só está presente aqui no Brasil, mas ela também ela advém de atores estrangeiros que também eles impactam no debate interno.
Posso fazer uma pergunta para você a respeito
Claro.
disso? Português, too, because you speak in Portuguese. Pode nos dar um exemplo específico de uma regra ou de uma política que nós estabeleceremos assim para combater assim esse tipo de problema de desinformação e tudo? Um exemplo específico, que tipo de política seria? O que seria um exemplo disso?
Bom, eu vou dar um exemplo de estrutura de governança, na verdade, que ela já vem sendo aplicada no âmbito da internet. A gente tem a ICANN, e a ICANN ela é construída a nível internacional por uma multiplicidade de atores de países. E o Sam Altman, que é o CEO da OpenAI, ele inclusive também colocou recentemente, há um mês atrás, a ICANN, a proposta da estrutura da ICANN como um modelo para a gente seguir na governança da inteligência artificial. O que a gente poderia fazer coletivamente também, a nível de estados e atores, também pensar ou em replicar essa estrutura de governança ou fazer algo parecido com ela, porque dentro da ICANN nós temos não somente os governos, como geralmente eles têm o hard power, mas dentro da ICANN a gente vê que também outros atores, e aí a gente tem os usuários, o setor dos usuários, o setor da sociedade civil, o próprio setor privado, tendo também esse poder de fato. E aqui no Brasil a gente também tem a replicação desse modelo com o Comitê Gestor da Internet no Brasil, que também está descrito hoje no finado PL 2630 como um dos atores que seriam responsáveis por essa governança das redes sociais ou governação algoritmo para combate à desinformação.
Muito obrigado. Okay, we had a hand back here, please. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, we have more comments. We've got so many hands up here.
Yeah, but on
I'm
this
seeing right over here. That's great. Just hold on to all of your questions just a moment.
We wanted
make
to-
our responses really quick
Yes.
so that we can do this. Let's
We
make our
wanted to
responses very
share
quick.
a concrete example. So Medlar and I, we worked on a paper earlier. We examined the elections and the various different efforts that happened around misinformation. What Taiwan did was really awesome. So what they did is in their chat app, they had this ask any kind of a thing, where if you saw something that doesn't really feel true, you can ask whether this is true. It would go through the credible sources and it will come back with whether it found the evidence or not. Something like that, if there would be a regulation, like you guys have the power to do it, if something like that was required and built into every single chat app, that would be really great for people who don't know whether something is a fact or a fiction.
Okay,
Thank
Thank you.
Stephen, sir, this is important. I know. This is important because
I wanna get
we
this
have
going.
had this report
Okay,
in our hands
there. Thanks,
we've
go
had
ahead.
We've had this report in our hands for a couple of months and we haven't finished it for
Okay.
a reason. We're looking for a smoking gun. There's a lot of talk about misinformation, disinformation, and the impact of AI. There's a lot of correlation, there's no causation. So it's very important we don't keep repeating the same things we say because the cost or the benefits of censoring free speech are marginal and the costs are absolute. And so there's a lot of rhetoric about the impact of AI and misinformation, disinformation. Every election we have looked at between September of last year, starting in Argentina, including India, zero evidence. And we're not the only one. The Turing Institute out of UK also cannot find a mechanism that connects AI propaganda with election outcomes. Zero, nothing, nada. Okay, and so that's important, I think, in terms of understanding. I'm not saying there's nothing there, but we have to be a bit more critical in the way we engage with this phenomenon.
So you're saying that the idea that AI is contributing to misinformation, disinformation is fake news,
Correct.
basically. Okay, okay. Back here, yes, please, right there.
Thank you. And thank you for saying that because I was dying to ask that question, having read that the correlation doesn't exist. But I want to shift a little bit to something that I personally see as a possibility for AI in terms of our faith community. I am a linguist by training. And spent many years working with the United Bible Societies in translation work. To get to do that, I had to do a lot of difficult work, like all of you theologians from the Christian perspective know, you can't do theology without doing the ancient languages. So I think of the years of big, hard work on studying Koine Greek and Biblical Hebrew. And I think today there are ways in which I see that AI can be helpful, both in the area of teaching ancient languages on which our faith communities are formed, whether that is Old Arabic or Hebrew or Koine Greek or other languages that we can think about, the Indian languages that have really been ancient, used for the scripts. All of these have been really hard for individuals. And if you look at translations of things that are used in faith, let me stick to the Bible, there are so many differences in different languages because of the lack of consistency. And I see opportunities here for AI. I would like to hear your opinions. I strongly believe, also as somebody who teaches semantics in universities, that this is an area where we can really benefit from the use of AI. Also in fixed faith things such as the creeds, the Lord's Prayer, for example, these are fixed. We can make them actually be assisted by the AI.
Thank you. This is a topic that is extremely dear to my heart, and I invite you to talk to me afterwards, okay? We have a lot of things in common about that. But I'd like to ask Harpreet. Harpreet, you were here, and one of the questions that is related to this was how AI can be utilized to reflect the values and teachings of different faiths, right? And to the point that was just made, right? How we can use AI to accurately to help reflect the values and teachings of different faith without imposing a particular worldview or bias. Is that okay? Is that related to what you just said, more or less? Do you want to paraphrase that a little bit?
The potential that AI has on fixed things that we do that support our faith community.
Okay.
Such as translations of scripts.
So
of-
the
or
potential
doctrines,
benefit
yes,
of AI, which I think, go ahead, Harpreet, can you address that topic? Potential benefit
Yes,
to increase our faith.
I can share some of the work I've been doing. It's a very, very interesting question when it comes to languages and the interpretation of the scriptures, not only in the AI world, but even in the physical world, especially when it comes to the perspective that a lot of these interpretations have been done in the last 200 or 300 years, whereas the scriptures may be like 7, 8, or 1,000 years old scriptures. So they've already been interpreted in a very, very modern way where they've actually lost the context, because we have already lost the context of a lot of these words, as even Manisha mentioned initially, like a lot of our words may come from Sanskrit. So we already lost the context of these languages of what they meant. So when I'm starting to look deeper into these scriptures, I'm already starting to find that there's a gap in terms of what understanding we have of these words now and what they may have actually meant in the real context. And when the wise people were actually really experiencing the spirituality, they were trying to tell us something totally different. And when we are actually trying to understand these words from the sensory intelligence, as I mentioned initially, they start to come as very different. Now, I think the AI can play a big role. I've been spending a lot of time in actually going and documenting these things on how these words could have meant totally different in the spiritual world and how we are actually interpreting them. I'll just take one example. Our Holy Scripture starts with the number or alphabet 1. When we looked at this from the modern world, we interpreted 1 as numeric 1. But when I look at more from the spirituality perspective, it becomes oneness, the connectivity. Yes, the AI can actually start to help us to actually really understand or help the next generation to interpret these things in a different way, but it involves a lot of work. It involves a lot of work and rethinking and rejigging the things and starting to provide that context into the AI. And then I think once it has the context, especially with the large language models, it becomes very easier to bring these things to the next generation in a much more true essence and the true context. But there's still a lot of gap that needs to be filled in because we have created a lot of gap through the sensory intelligence on misinterpreting these things in a different way, if that helps.
Here, go ahead, and you'll be next, and then back here. Okay, we've got 3 here. 1, 2, 3. Okay.
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. Maybe. Okay, I see you. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm Dr. Mohammed Abu Hilal. I'm psychiatrist, and I want to have a comment and a question. So the comment is like, actually, I'm using ChatGPT now in programming service for like mental health and faith mental health. So actually, when I tried it and I asked him some questions about if somebody traumatized and has lost faith, so so I pretend that I am this patient. So his answer was amazing, actually. I was not expecting that he has this professionality in answering.
He is.
Yeah.
Who is he? An AI?
Yes.
Oh, who? ChatGPT or somebody else?
Yeah, ChatGPT.
Oh,
The
okay.
second is also, I found like from faith perspective, like for example, if you go to counseling and you have a problem with your father, you cannot talk about your father because it's seen in front of psychotherapist. But you can easily talk with AI about whatever you want. And actually, this is some of the things that may be beneficial actually in programming this. So this is my
a little dangerous, but go ahead.
Yeah.
And what's your question?
Yeah. My question is, how do you see the faith role in the overall discussion about that, about the ethics of AI? Because we are afraid that maybe big companies and politicians who are lack of ethics or racist, they want to put principles for AI not to be racist. So I'm concerned about that. Would you see that faith community can have a say in these discussions? So we have international agreement actually about what is the ethics that we need to maybe put. Thank you.
Yoshinobu-san, can you address that question? That's about the ethics of using AI to give professional counseling to people.
Yeah. So,
okay.
So first of all, I would like to ask you again. ask you what's the criteria of ethics or the faith? Everybody has different faiths. So I think I have very much positive feeling for AI because we confront many difficulties in the present world, struggling so many different ideas. So from the Japanese context, from our generations, the animes, the mangas, so many things, our generations as a robot or AI is the friend of myself, not different against from human beings. And sometimes very bad humans attack to the other humans. So I think we should add the element of the just non-Abrahamic tradition for this moment. This is my answer. Making sense?
Okay, thank you. Over here and then back there, please.
Olá, eu sou a Juliane, sou membro da Fundação Roble del Sur aqui do Brasil. Eu não entendo muito de inteligência artificial, já peço desculpas. O pouco que eu entendo, eu estou aprendendo, eu acredito que com a maioria da população em geral. Mas eu sou mãe e professora. Então eu já vi crianças comprando no assistente virtual, já vi crianças falando com a inteligência artificial, já vi crianças fazendo lição de casa na inteligência artificial. E chegando na escola e a professora perguntando, como você fez essa conta? Não sei, foi a fulana que me ajudou. Fulana quer dizer o nome, né? Não sei se posso falar o nome. Alexa. Alexa me respondeu. Existe alguma proteção, algum protocolo já para que essas crianças sejam protegidas ou isso simplesmente vai ficar por conta dos pais aprenderem e ensinarem as crianças para que elas não sejam, para que elas não tenham, por exemplo, problemas com isso futuramente?
This is a great question, and I think Fishel is going to answer it for us.
Really briefly, in the University of Buenos Aires, we developed a legal framework from education and when and why and in what framework and at what extent the professor or the teachers can use artificial intelligence, for example, ChatGPT, to educate people. But education people, professional of education, need to understand that in modern times we need to change the way of education. The way of the education now is not about contents, but rather about processes. And you need to use the technology in order to educate people in the more relevant way, let's say, in processes and in content, but not just in content. For example, which is the education for, I don't know, 30 years ago. Yes. This is a parallel change.
Okay. Por favor.
So I have a question in terms of the consideration of the panel. If you have ever considered a common conceptual framework to be created by the diverse faiths, using a participatory methodology that we can start analyzing the different principles from the different faiths. I'm going to give some examples. Oneness of humanity. It is due to the lack of oneness of humanity that we have so many silos, or we have so much biases and discrimination. Then many other points, such as justice, etc., could be used. I'm just giving some examples. Other areas could be approaches, actions. If that has not been thought before about, I would like to recommend that this is taken by the G20 states and proposed for a working group and a resolution that could be worked with the OECD to see how this could work. Because we are seeing that the triple planetary crises are not being tackled in the way that things are working with the private sector, the public sector, NGOs. Bridges are not being sustainable. So just concluding, if
You
none
pose
of
this as a question
yes,
so that we
so
can
if no
give it to
one
somebody.
in the panel has considered this type of common conceptual framework, that later on we could create a common framework of action, then I would recommend as a recommendation for the
So a common framework across all faiths, is that
yes,
correct?
yes, that we
Okay,
could
is it-
analyze different principles and we could make a structure together of how this system could work.
Okay, would anybody like? Okay.
I this there are a lot of initiatives, interfaith initiatives. I just will describe one of these, and the second in the initiative is the initiative from the Pontifical Academy for Life. Yes, and I will that my colleague Miyake he will speak about it. Just in order to 1 minute, can I just put this slide? Yeah.
Pasar os slides.
Yes.
To Fishel.
Okay. In Argentina and together with the Vatican, we have an initiative that yes, the initiative in order to make a new criterion for the use of biotechnologies. Biotechnologies, the current criterion used to evaluate the biotechnologies based in artificial intelligence are based solely on a binary category of whether such technologies are therapeutic or desired. But this standard currently is both ambiguous and ineffective. We, Muslims, Christians, Jews, bioethicists of these three Abrahamic religions, develop a new criterion, more encompassed and more inclusive and more effective to what extent we can make use of biotechnologies in the common good, but safeguarding, preserving the human identity. And this is, sorry, this is a common place about how, based on 7, find the human identity, the human dignity, and is the same, really the same sense that in the secular definition, legal definition, and social definition. And based on this human dignity, okay, another, yeah. Quickly.
Yeah, avanzado.
Yes. We, in the Vatican, we unify criteria with the interpretation of this versicle, Genesis 1:27, and with the Pope Francis, another one. Oh, no. Avance. Okay. With the chief rabbi in Israel, and Avance. Okay. And with the Mufti, is the really common initiative with the Abrahamic faith and another, the last. Okay. In conclusion, we together make that biblical wisdom contribute to resolve the shortcoming of the current bioethical standard, that biblical wisdom allows for the enjoyment of convergent technological progress, let's say nanotechnology, robotics, and artificial intelligence, while safeguarding human dignity that today doesn't occur. And where I am working that with these referred authorities of the Abrahamic faith is to unify criteria between all these or among all these religions and establish a consensus held policy protocol for all the world. This is one initiative. The second initiative that my colleague Miyake will speak, it's about the Rome call for ethics of artificial intelligence.
Another question. Have him answer. Actually, he was prepared to answer your question perfectly.
Yeah.
Those slides were ready for you. So, okay, thank you.
Yeah.
And now Miyake-san is
Just for
going to
you.
talk about this agreement that was signed. Briefly.
So it is very important, the good work for the making effort for the Pontifical Academy for Life. And this is not AI's study group. Their purpose for the life. And life is the most important thing for among all human beings. And from my indigenous mind of our Shinto tradition, life is a root of everything. So the value of everything, and not only for the actual living things. All beings has life and spirit. That I think. So but the very first step of our religious community to commit for the present AI's powers, because very strongly, I think this 1-2 years is very important for the generative AI. So generative means AI means genesis of the AI. So this is the most important point. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, please.
Sorry, I was late. So in case I'm asking a very stupid question,
there are no
and you have
stupid
answered it
questions.
already, just tell me and I will shut up. I don't know who was there when we spoke and listened to the perspective of indigenous peoples. And I'm not sure if you were there. Sorry, I was running before, so we went to the President Palace. So it was an interesting session. And we heard a couple of figures which say we are off track with the SDGs. Depression rates are on the rise. Loneliness is on the rise. So it's very clear. Worldly prosperity does not lead to well-being. It's a fact. So artificial intelligence is again another layer of complexity which we have created. So first we invented atomic energy and so on, and although all the smart people knew it's going to be a problem, we still did it. So we have hundreds of these kind of examples. So the way the discussions are going, I have the feeling that we are again doing the same thing. And I was actually expecting from the world of religion that we have a very holistic approach to AI and the ethical implications it will have on humanity. I'm not so much interested personally to listen to people of faith talking like people from IT companies. So, I mean, sounds harsh, but that was my expectation. So, it's more an observation that I'm quite surprised the way discussions are going. We need, I think, and if I listen to young people, they are spending 24/7 with algorithms, Instagram, TikTok, and so on. It's an artificial world. And the indigenous peoples are reminding us again and again, we are estranged from what makes us human. So how on earth can artificial intelligence, which is again the next level of estrangement from our heart, from nature, solve our problems? I did not understand it, sorry.
Okay, thank you. Attorney, this way. Here, say something about that?
I'll take it. You were not here for this quote, so I'll just say the quote again. The religion that is married to science today will be a widow tomorrow. A religion that is divorced from science today will have no offspring tomorrow. Advances in technology, advances in economic prosperity are responsible for lifting out of poverty billions of people, children and vulnerable populations. We can speak from a privileged position about the choice of not engaging or engaging with technology, but for some communities, that may actually be the only way to survive. For some small religious communities, may be the only way to preserve their language, their rituals, to memorialize their buildings. It's the only way to engage with the world. I think it's very important that as people of faith, the question is not do we engage or do we not engage. That choice is made for us because of other actors. But if you are not, I think Paul Durham has said this, if you are not around the table, you are on the menu. And so we as people of faith must absolutely be around the table, no matter what our attitudes about technology. You may be absolutely right about the impact it may have, but if you disengage from it, if you don't engage with the governance issues, with the ethics issues, with the way it's applied, with the way it's misapplied, then you have no voice. Right, and so then the question then, we must engage with it. Well, if you get engaged with it, why not somebody else? Why should only those those who get the technology should engage with it? If you think you should be around the table, why not all the other communities who are also involved? I know a member of my community, when I lived in Sweden, who could go to their congregation only once a year. Their job was to get like pure ice water, and once a year they could go. Think about the miracle of virtual reality for that individual. Think about the miracle of artificial. Think about people that have disabilities that cannot go to your communities. Right? We don't like technology until COVID locks us all down, and then we can still connect with each other during that period of lockdown. So, again, I'm not saying embrace this and then just forget about all the other things around it, right? But remember, if you don't engage with it, you have no future.
Okay, thank you.
So I think what I heard his question is that we have, like, the loneliness is going up, the other things are going up. So I think showing the judgment of when to use it for the right problem and when to stay away from it is something we should learn before we get addicted to it.
Okay, thank you. We have two more questions, and then I'm going to ask one final question, a final statement from all of our panelists. But please, go ahead. You need to speak in the microphone, please. Thank you.
I'd like to submit the idea that artificial intelligence is a pernicious force because it's prioritizing information over wisdom. And we see that in the Catholic philosopher C.G. Chesterton, who says, "Where is the wisdom we have lost in information?" And we hear that same theme from the Hindu religion, who declares that this is the time of Kali Yuga, or the weakness of religion, so that today we are now learning more through information, but we no longer have the spiritual experiences that cultivate wisdom. And the more we have information, the more we get scattered, and the presence of God becomes weaker in our lives. And that's why artificial intelligence only expands that spectrum of information, and it's going to cause us to no longer have the strength of experiences that give us transformation.
Can you give us a question in that regard? Is there a question to be asked?
How then can we continue with an emphasis on artificial intelligence, except for the interaction to the larger world, but for us within our faith traditions? How can we countenance that which weakens wisdom and spiritual experience?
May I respond for just a minute? Go ahead, give your microphone back there. But as you do, let me just say that in our particular faith, artificial intelligence includes a lot of different kinds of function, a lot of different tasks, right? And I'm in translation, and it is used, that technology. Without that technology, we would not be able to produce translations. We would not be able to produce videos, content, all these things to build the faith of our members, to build the faith of our communities. And so we use technology to actually expand our reach to people around the world in the language that they can understand, right? And without it, we would not be able to do that. So there are good uses, there are bad uses. It can be used perniciously. I agree with you. But it can also be used to do much good. But again, we're all here to agree, right? We can all agree that there's good and bad, okay? There is good and bad. Okay, go ahead in the back, please.
I wanted to ask a question that's maybe a little bit at odds with the thrust of the conversation. We've touched on some issues around, for example, the presence of biases in algorithms and the problems associated. I'd like to ask the panelists about your understanding of the current state of discussion and efforts to deliberately encode biases into algorithms in ways that are consistent with religion, right? What would it mean and look like to create an algorithm that parses data in ways that are consistent with the moral teachings of a particular faith tradition, right? We can talk about an algorithm that has racism encoded in it. We can talk about an algorithm that has sexism encoded in it. What would it mean to create a halal algorithm? What would it mean to create a Christian algorithm?
I actually have a response, but I'm going to let my panelists respond to that. Okay? Let me just give one example. I'm working right now on a project to take all of the data, all of the translated data from our church and make it available publicly so it can be incorporated into AI models. And I would ask if you want, and there was a big discussion in our church, how are we going to influence AI models to respond correctly when somebody asks about what we believe or whatever, to not give out, misinformation. And the answer was, well, we could create one ourselves, but nobody's going to use it. Nobody cares about it. They're going to go use ChatGPT or something else, Meta AI, Llama 2, you name it, right? But what if we say, hey, here's our data, and we have to do this very carefully. We have to do this extremely carefully, right? And set up ways of doing this and collaborations and things to do this. But anyhow, there's a whole area that's being focused on, and I would invite people of all faiths, right, to make sure that they are interacting. I will go along with Medlar and say, if you're not at the table, you're on the menu, right? You're going to get eaten alive if you don't work with these technology companies to say, here's what we believe. Here's our data, by the way. Here's how you can use it appropriately, and don't, and then create agreements to not use it inappropriately. Okay, and again, we could have a whole nother discussion on this, but. Okay, well, I think we've got 5 minutes left, and I'd like to just ask everybody here to give a final summary. You do that?
Just 10 seconds.
10 seconds.
Okay. 20.
1, 2, 3.
No, this exactly was a part of the agreement with the Pontifical Academy for Life, with IBM, Microsoft, FAO, and the European Parliament to deal with the opacity of the algorithms, to disclose the algorithms, not just entertainment algorithms, but the algorithms of criminal predictive of police, of the police departments, or the insurance or banks, and not all the companies are disposal to disclose their algorithm. And this is a problem.
Manisha talked about also transparency, right, where things come from. And there's something called RAG, if you haven't heard of it, Retrieval Augmented Generation, which says, let's go look up the answer, and then let's let the AI paraphrase the answer, but we get the right answer, okay? And that's something that we need as a tool. We can talk about that later. Let's go ahead and have closing statements from everybody. And I would just ask the panelists to all think about this. We've heard all, like I said, the good, bad, and the ugly about this. There's all kinds of perspectives. I'd like to focus on prioritization of what comes next, okay? Can you each say briefly, what do you think we should do this year? Maybe in 2 or 3 years? Or maybe in the longer term? What comes next with this whole question of AI? Where should we focus as people of faith with regard to artificial intelligence? And let's start, I guess I'm going to start with my friend who's virtual. Harpreet, can you answer that question, please, briefly, and then we'll just go right down the table. Then we'll go next to Yoshinobu-san, and then forward. Go ahead, please.
So I think my recommendation on the short term is to include as many people from faith as possible, whether it's Microsoft, IBM, all these vendors that should be becoming more inclusive in having people from different faiths. And the medium-term goal should be that how we start to convert this information into wisdom. Because what we have done is we have converted wisdom into information, and that's causing the issue. So how can we actually now start to use AI to start to convert this information into the wisdom? And in the long run, we really need to start to think that how we start to create the experiential wisdoms into the AI. When people are interacting with it, it starts to understand the context of what people are trying to get, not a standard information that is coming out. But yes, all of this will happen only when we are more inclusive, we are all participating in the process, and the governance and everything is really, really broadly thought about different context and the people who are going to use AI. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Harpreet.
So
Yoshinobu.
the AI engineers should always ensure its transparency and traceability. And at the same time, religious people should always make efforts to understand that the latest technology and respond to the problems they may cause. That is my answer.
Okay. Thank you.
My answer is all we can say now, today, about artificial intelligence or biotechnology, tomorrow will be obsolete. So, so we need to focus in the constant of human being. What is the constant or the inherent value of human being? The inherent human dignity. So we need to direct, to address all the contingencies in order to fulfill or to preserve the human dignity. In the case of the use of artificial intelligence, is not replace human judgment by artificial intelligence, not replace the capacity of moral choices by the artificial intelligence.
Excellent. I agree. Thank you. Go ahead. Tobias, por favor, pode falar.
A gente conversou um pouco aqui sobre essa falta de consenso do que pode ser alguns conceitos importantes para a gente trabalhar dentro de inteligência artificial. E eu acho que, igual todos os painelistas muito bem falaram, tudo que a gente falar agora pode estar obsoleto em pouco tempo. Mas a gente concorda minimamente com alguns princípios básicos, e eles devem sim ser endereçados, porque os princípios eles não acabam. Então a gente tem que pautar sim a inteligência artificial, e a gente tem que estabelecer alguns preceitos não só de transparência, mas de bem comum. Então hoje e eu não acho que num futuro próximo a gente vai ter uma inteligência artificial que entenda o que é o bem comum, porque nós mesmos, a gente tem diferentes ideias do que significa justiça, do que significa senso comum, mas a gente tem que garantir que não seja um algoritmo ou algum programa que basicamente ele lê bilhões e trilhões de dados que vai decidir o que isso significa para a gente. Então, nós temos que estabelecer princípios básicos, e a gente tem que garantir que isso seja feito com transparência e também que seja possibilitada a revisão humana, especialmente em casos sensíveis que podem colocar algum elemento de justiça, de viés algoritmo dentro dessas decisões feitas por inteligências artificiais.
Manisha, por favor.
So 2 things, what to do next. I really like the idea of generating data and then making it available. Every faith that can do it, that would be wonderful. And the second is to go along with that good, strong test sets, so that the answers that come out of this system are also verified and the results are shared with everyone. So the more future models that come out, if they have the score right out of the box, that would bring it the quality.
That's great. That's coming from a technologist who knows what we need to do technologically to get these systems to do the right thing. Thank you very much. Medlir.
Just a couple of things. Number one, religious organizations are already using AI for good. LDS Bot is actually an answer to the question that was asked earlier. It just filters ChatGPT results for an LDS audience, a Latter-day Saint audience. Faith Tech is a global religious community, Christian community during COVID, connecting people through technology that do hacking for Jesus and all kinds of things. It's actually pretty cool. Santo in Poland is a Catholic priest, but a robot. Bless You Too, a Protestant robot in Germany. The Ahmadiyya Muslim community has utilized AI to search through vast amounts of data to use for their own good. In Japan, a humanoid robot priest is performing some Buddhist rituals because of demographic. You know the story. Not quite AI enabled quite yet, but it's getting, well, it's there. It's possible to do it. So it is possible, and we're using these kinds of things. Number two, what can religious organizations do? I think starts first by educating ourselves. And so in that spirit, I'd like to recommend two books. One is called Feeling and Knowing by Antonio Damasio, which talks about these questions of consciousness and the importance of embodiment as a preconditions to consciousness. And so I think the question of consciousness and AI is not about whether you can or not, but how do you do it, and whether embodiment and AI can work hand in hand. The second book is a book by Noreen Hertzfeld, who's a computer scientist and a theologian. It's called The Artifice of Intelligence, which uses Karl Barth, obviously a theologian, to frame the relation between us and technology. I think for some skeptics in the room, may actually be a good starting point for that. Once we have educated ourselves, I think it's very important that we begin to engage with the various governance models. They start at the local level. If you're concerned about surveillance, then go and talk to your police center, go and talk to your local city council, because surveillance, especially if you're a minority religious group, you have a lot to worry about. And so you need to decide at the local level how to engage with that. Of course, there is a federal level, there's a state level, there's a global level. We didn't talk about governance. I do work at the Global Governance Institute, so I could have talked to you about that, but I guess I took my time on other issues. And I think that it's important for religious people to become thought leaders when it comes to AI. And it doesn't have to be religiously argumented kind of like statements, but your religious values can and should inform the way you engage with technology and the way you engage with the overall governance model. Thank you.
Muito obrigado. Okay, we've gone over, but we started late. So thank you all for your patience, and I'll just end by saying we believe in humans. And humans who are assisted by technology is a good thing, but humans first, technology second. I hope everybody agrees with me on that, but let's give our panelists a round of applause. Thank you.